Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to my channel. In last night's live stream, we spoke about the film trailers that were released this week at San Diego Comic-Con. Since we were focusing on film, we didn't really get to talk about the Young Justice trailer for Season 3, Young Justice Outsiders. So I wanted to do a video on that. I was finally able to watch the trailer, and overall I could not be more excited. I'm conflicted now, of course, because I need to watch the Young Justice series, but I still don't want to pay for a service that includes that atrocious Titans series and vision for that show. So I'll figure something out. But I'm very excited about this Young Justice Season 3, finally, after so long. If you don't know much about the saga, about why it was canceled in the first place after Season 2, and all that we've had to go through to finally get more episodes of this, I definitely encourage you to check out some other channels. They do a far better job than I do in sort of an expose, history type of news of the event. But I'm so glad we have the series back now. And from my own unique angle, I wanted to talk about the series as a wonderful representation of the sidekick archetype. I'll go a lot more into the sidekick when we actually get to that video in my archetype series. But I loved Young Justice because it focused on these mostly sidekicks. Most of them were sidekicks to begin with. And it focused on their stories of coming into their own. It basically did everything effectively that the Titans series seems to want to do, but it's making a mockery of with all of its dark, gritty treatments. One thing among many others that the sidekick archetype should do is to round out the hero. Now, in the Young Justice series, we didn't really get to see a lot of the sidekicks with their respective heroes. Saw a little bit of it, but that series was mainly focused on them coming into their own, working together, and becoming a team. But we saw a little bit with Batman and Robin, certainly with Green Arrow and Roy Harper and such. And we saw the developing relationship between Superboy and Superman, even though it's technically not a sidekick thing. We still saw the mentor-mentee relationship develop there. But one of the things that the Young Justice series did very well was to focus on the Young Justice team as sidekicks to the Justice League, so to speak, in terms of the archetype. Of course, they were their own team and did their own things on mission from the Justice League. But if the sidekick is supposed to round out the hero, then Young Justice, that team, rounded out the DC universe within which they were situated. So let me explain what I mean by that. Robin, for example. A classic Robin has to balance out Batman. Batman tends to go too dark without a Robin, and then the stories have paid tribute to this idea and have explained it quite thoroughly at times, but we know that from Batman's history, for example. Batman himself, just the hero Batman, started out as a pulp hero, much darker before they developed the rules of him not killing and not using guns and so forth, but he still never became as light as he did once Robin was introduced. Now, a Batman and Robin team do not need to be Adam West and Burt Ward running around in light, bright-colored, happy comedic adventures, of course. The ideal, iconic Batman and Robin team should be a balance. The best way to explain this is Tim Drake's origin story as Robin. When he saw, as a young boy who, with his brilliant detective mind, already figured out that Bruce Wayne was Batman and Dick Grayson was Robin, he noticed that Batman as a hero was becoming a lot darker, and a lot less about hope and a lot less about shining the light within the darkness of Gotham. And he came to the conclusion that Batman needs a Robin. He knew that Robin had gone off to become Nightwing, so he himself went on a mission to try to reunite the two. He went on a mission to find Dick Grayson and try to convince him to come back to Batman as Robin. Of course, that didn't work. Dick Grayson was doing his own thing as Nightwing at that point, and the wonderful story ended up with Tim Drake himself taking on the Robin mantle. Wonderful story. Instantly made Tim Drake my favorite Robin. That's a great illustration of how the sidekick needs to round out the hero, balance them out, ground them, so to speak, in some way or another. And we'll go through a lot more examples when we do the actual video on the sidekick as an archetype. But with Young Justice, we saw the team of sidekicks there coming into their own, and they were balancing out the heroes. You had superheroes established in the world already. They had been there for a number of years. The Hall of Justice was already there. The Watchtower was already there. So they were established, but at the same time, they're still figuring themselves out. They're still adding new members, coming up against greater and greater threats, such as the Light and so forth. And Young Justice, comprised of a group of children with powers or training or whatever that they used, they had an opportunity that the heroes of the Justice League did not. Many of them growing up, of course, had to figure out what to do with their powers on their own, had to come into this whole status of a hero on their own. So they're trying to give the next generation all of the benefits and opportunities that they didn't have. But with those benefits and opportunities, the younger generation can teach the older generation about how to best accomplish hero work and how to prioritize as well. So I love that in the Young Justice series. We saw many times where even though they were going out on mission from the Justice League, they would go rogue or they would do this and that because they knew it to be the right thing. Not going against the Justice League or their principles or anything, but stepping out and just doing what they knew was right. And it looks like this new season, The Outsiders, is going to carry on that tradition. It seemed from one scene in which Nightwing was gathering up the old band, quote-unquote, back together for a mission, that they had all been out of the game for a while. We know that Nightwing took a break at the end of last season. I don't know if this means that those principal players of the Justice League had been out of the game for a while, or if that just means that the Young Justice team in general had been disbanded for a bit. I don't know how that will play into it. We did see at the end of the last season the coming threat with Vandal Savage and Darkseid shaking hands, so we know that there are greater threats even than the Light to come, and that the Justice League is not going to be able to combat those threats on their own. They needed Young Justice to combat the Light. They were all under the Light's control, and it was the team of Sidekicks that came in and helped them to reclaim themselves, and that's a great tool for a sidekick to do. That's what they do metaphorically as well as literally in that story, helping the heroes recenter and reclaim themselves. That was a great storyline. So it looks like we'll be doing that again with this series. I'm very excited about it. Of course, we will continue the saga of Wally. Hopefully he will be coming back sooner than later. The only criticism I have about Young Justice is the large jumps between the seasons. And that's not a problem in terms of the story they go on to tell, because when Season 2 originally aired, and I realized that there was such a huge jump between Season 1 and Season 2, I was disappointed that I didn't have more time with those characters at that stage. I had so enjoyed spending time with them during Season 1 in that group of characters and seeing how that was going to develop their relationships and so forth. And then there was a huge jump between 1 and 2, and we had all of these things happen that I would have liked to have been there for, to see develop. Season 2 ended up being its own wonderful story, though, and eventually they released the Young Justice video game. It's for Xbox and PS3, I think, and that's supposed to go in and tell some of the story of the in-between time of Season 1 and 2. And it does a great job, but it's a video game, so it's not a thoroughly narrated out story. It's subject to the principle of gameplay, first and foremost. The tie-in comic books are great. I did enjoy reading those. They help somewhat, filling in some of the gaps. The one thing that I haven't heard anything about yet that I hope they release is anything to fill in the gap between Season 2 and Season 3. Whether a tie-in comic book run that will tell some of that story, another video game, whatever, webcomics. I would like something out there additionally to help fill in that story, and I think that people would eat it up. I mean, the comics were popular, and the video game proved rather popular as well, so I am hoping for that, and I'm very much looking forward to Young Justice Outsiders. A lot of new characters coming in. They look to be fun. I'm interested to see the romance develop between Tim Drake and Stephanie, the spoiler. Hopefully they carry that through. Let me know who you're most looking forward to see come back and to see develop with these new characters and old. And we will keep an ear to the ground about news to come for the series, any reveals, and any new additional opportunities for storytelling to fill in those gaps. Stay tuned soon for, of course, more archetype videos and my look at this crazy nonsense of Heroes in Crisis that has been revealed. Until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.